Hey everybody, my name's Kang, and in this video, you're gonna budget with me. This is a monthly reoccurring series where I break down every single dollar I spent, saved, and invested in that previous month. I make these videos to keep myself accountable, promote financial transparency, and give you an accountability partner if you want to start budgeting yourself. If that's something you're interested in, make sure to hit subscribe and join the mob. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go to the most important part, pay. In my opinion, when you're budgeting, the first thing you want to do is go through your paychecks just to make sure everything lines up correctly. So every 2 weeks, my gross pay is $5,314. From my gross pay, I invest into my 401k pre-tax, which is around $1,860. So in total, after all those deductions, my taxable earning is $3,463. Next, I have to pay my tax. So federal income tax, social security tax, and Medicare tax all add up to $974. Next, we do our after-tax deductions, which is mostly my ESPP plan, which is around $800. So in total, what hits my bank account is $1,669.58. So this is one paycheck and I get paid twice a month, so my total ends up being around $3,400. Next, we'll go over my investments. This month, I invested into crypto, my 401k, and my ESPP. As we can see here, I invested $1,860 to my 401k. My employer invests 50 cents for every single dollar that I contribute to my 401k. If you're wondering why I'm front loading my 401k so aggressively, you can watch this video right here where I go way more into depth. But to sum it up, since I'm getting an employer match, I want to get that money into the market as fast as possible. Next thing I invest in is my ESPP, which is around $800 every single paycheck or $1,600 every single week. And if you're wondering why you should invest into your ESPP, I also have a video on that one as well. Aside from investing into my 401k and my ESPP, I also buy Bitcoin and Ethereum at $100 increments every single week. So after adding all that up, the total amount that I invested this month is around $8,000. Okay, so now that we've talked about how much I gotten paid and how much I invested, let's talk about something that's a little bit more interesting, which is the spending. So right now I have Mint on screen, which is one of my favorite budgeting apps. But before we take a look at the UI, look at the graphs and all that, what's most important to do is to sort out your transactions. So as you can see, I've already done some of this transaction pruning where I've gone through it and fixed some transactions that weren't in the right spot or needed to be split. By splitting from transactions, you can categorize your spending a little bit better by hiding some portion of what you spent into the section hide from budgets, which basically means it won't show up in your yearly or your monthly spreadsheet. It'll make a lot more sense if we do an example. I split this transaction. It was originally $60, but I split it into two. One that's $40, which is hide from budgets and trends, and another one which is $20, which is the one that I'm actually paying, which is internet. So I've gone through my transactions and everything looks good, but there's still a few things that I want to talk about. I have 3 transactions that are listed as uncategorized. These are Venmo charges from when I went down to Napa for the long weekend. But then that brings up the question of, do I want to set this total amount to travel, or do I want to break it up into smaller categories like restaurants and Ubers, etc. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to list anything that I wouldn't normally do in Seattle as travel and anything that I would normally do in Seattle as not travel. And the last thing I want to talk about on this transactions page is my Amex renewal fee. So this month I had to renew my Amex Gold card, which cost $250, which sounds like a lot until I tell you about its perks. With the Amex Gold card, you can accumulate membership reward points really fast, which is Amex's like internal point system. But with these points, you can actually transfer them to different airline partners or even book directly through the Amex portal for free flights. But in order to get these points, you need to get the card, and in order to get the card, you obviously have to pay the fee. Now the $200.50 fee is actually offset by Amex perks. Every single month you get $10 of Uber cash, which you can spend on Uber Eats or taking an Uber. Now normally I don't actually Uber that often because I live in a very walkable neighborhood. So instead I use it for an Uber Eats pickup order. The other perk that they give you is a Grubhub statement credit worth $10. I don't normally use food delivery apps, but with Grubhub, I'm able to do a pickup order, which I usually do each month as well. So if you use both of those perks, you're basically paying $10 for the ability to accumulate points and travel for free. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you don't already have the Amex Gold card, I think it's a great idea to look into. I personally think it's better than the Platinum, but that's something for another video. Okay, so now with the transaction sorted out, we can actually go through my budget. Like I said earlier, my paycheck hasn't actually hit my bank account yet, but when it does, it's going to be $3,300. This month I spent $21 on transport, which is a split between Ubers to the airport and splitting gas for my friends. Next is internet. That's pretty boring. Next we have alcohol, which is $11. This is just grabbing drinks and hanging out with my friends at the Airbnb. Coffee shops, I have $23. So every Saturday I like to get out of the house, go to coffee shops and work on some scripts for the videos. And obviously when you go, you got to buy a coffee or whatever. So I ended up spending $23 this month on those coffees, or in my case, tea. Fast food this month was $51, which is whatever, normal. Groceries is $160 this month, which is low because I'm only buying like vegetables and stuff like that. Restaurants, I'm at $128 this month, which is over from my $100 budget. Also shout out to Deho, which is my favorite restaurant in SF. Gift and donations, I spent $45 this month. Health and fitness is $344. This is mostly from my gym membership, which is $304. And if you work out the math, it ends up being $25 a month. Next year, my rent and my utilities, which is around $1,225. My haircut, which is $35. And then travel, which is $227. So over the long weekend in February, I actually went to visit my friends in San Francisco, and we decided to go to Napa to, just drink and see wine and stuff. It is a bit on the pricey side in comparison to a lot of other destinations, I think, just because it has some hype surrounding it. But it's a cool place to visit. We went to a castle to drink wine. And like I said, I'm not really a big wine drinker, so I couldn't really tell much of a difference between the different costs and the different wines. We also went to Ad Hoc, which is a restaurant by the same dude who runs French Laundry. Ad Hoc's really known for their fried chicken, which was great. But for us, the rest of the meal was like okay at best. Overall, that long weekend was a really good time. I got to travel to Napa, got to see my friends, and got to eat some really good food. And I'm talking about Deho, not Ad Hoc. And the last thing on my budget is this everything else category, which is my service fee for my Amex card and this $2 phone charge, which is basically just keeping my Canadian number. This month I earned $3,300. I spent $2,540 and I invested $800 into Bitcoin and Ethereum. After some quick math, I'm in the hole about $40 and the month's still not done yet, so I estimate I'm going to probably spend like another $30. Okay, so now that we've done all the administrative work from our budget, we can actually do some introspection, which I actually think is the better part of budgeting. I can see which categories I'm going over in and which categories I'm going under in. And with that knowledge, I can reprioritize where my hard-earned money is going. So looking over it really quickly, the main distinction I can see is the restaurants. So last month I spent $198 in restaurants, and this month I spent $128. Now right now I have my budget for restaurants set to $100, and next month if I continue to see me going over that budget of $100, I'm going to increase the budget. The reason for this is I think that it's better to be reasonable about your budget rather than to be restrictive. All in all, this took me about an hour and a half to do, but that's mostly because I'm filming and making all these bad takes. But if I was doing it by myself, it'd take me 10 to 15 minutes. So I personally think if you're only spending 10 to 15 minutes a month and you're able to get all this information, budgeting is a no-brainer. Alright, so that basically wraps up the video. Like I said earlier, this is a monthly reoccurring series, so let me know if there's anything you don't want me to include or if there's anything you want me to include going forward. Thanks for watching the video if you made it this far. If you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing. And if you're curious about how much I spent in the month of January, you can watch this video right here.